feel love, and I ain't got no
I got the fire flow. Shorty getting down, going up the fire pole. Radical in the mitten where we mad cold. I got the bullfrog flow. You a tadpole.
Welcome to someone's favorite movie. My name is Randy, and with me is the man they call Tom Coe.
Well, they call me that. I don't know if I'm a man.
Well,
My father always berates me.
They call you a lot of things, word on the street.
They do. Not even behind my back. They don't even have the courtesy to do that anymore.
Your co-host, Jake, he's told me a few things that he calls you, and I'm like, oh boy, you're making me blush, sir.
Yes, I'd imagine he could give you quite the earful.
Exactly.
Or, knowing him, he'd be willing to fill any orifice that he could get his hands on.
Excuse me, this is a family-oriented show. Talking about orifices. How dare you?
Yes, this is technically a children's movie that we're reviewing this week, so I should watch myself.
Yeah. Ah, man. So, he comes from a big dumb geek show called Jake and Tom Conquer the World. I come from a big dumb comedy show called Miserable Retail Slave. When we come together, we form this great big awesomeness that is this big dumb movie show, someone's favorite movie. We're just a pair of angels with filthy souls covering these forgotten cinematic wonders that rightfully or wrongfully have been swept under the rug.
Yes, movies that should have been forgotten, but we just can't. We're like the cinematic version of kind of playing with a burn blister after eating too much hot pizza, aren't we? We just won't leave it alone.
We won't. We're that broken tooth that you just keep tonguing and tonguing until you cut your tongue.
Yes.
Like, stop it.
I think that's a very apt description of our show. We should stop it. We should just leave it alone, but god damn it, we can't help it.
Here's another apt story, I feel like, because I mentioned swept under the rug, and I have to tell this anecdote because it has to do with turds, and oftentimes we deal with cinematic turds on this program.
I actually just recorded a whole podcast about turds, so I'm all ears, sir.
Yes, you did. That's the high-quality podcast that is Jake and Tom Conquer the World for all your poopy needs. So anyways, I was at my respectable day job and walked into one of my rooms, and there was a perfectly placed and well-formed turd right in the middle of the floor.
What's the definition of a perfectly placed turd?
Well,
you have my attention.
It was on the floor. It was like unhandled.
I'm just picturing it like in the center of the room, amazingly well lit. It's like the dude's rug. It pulls the whole room together.
Pretty much, this turd pulled the whole room together. And the problem is, how did it get there when I knew there was a room full of people there not minutes before? Like, I understand these things happen. Maybe you had a stunning and sudden accident and you kind of wiggle your leg a little bit. So
I've seen that. I have seen that in real life with my eyes. It was disturbing and amazing at the same time.
Well, yeah, because you're trying to get it to sneak out of your trousers there. And
there was no sneaking about it. There was no subtlety.
Well, I mean, normal people would be kind of stealthy about it. And this person apparently was very stealthy. And also they seemed to be some sort of poo magician because I'm telling you, this turd was in pristine condition. If it had been graded by a memorabilia company, perfect 10, I would think.
Wow.
Anyways, getting to the point of my story. That very same day, 2 other turds were found in a different room. However, they weren't in the center of the room. Someone had hid them under a rug.
You have a serial phantom pooper on your hands, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who this daring defecator is, but I applaud his or her moxie because, wow, you are a pooping ninja, sir or ma'am. And that's what I think of now every time I hear the phrase, swept under the rug. You're welcome. You're welcome for that story.
Well, I can't wait to use that in a nice social setting. That story, I think, is going to be great at the next potluck at the church.
Absolutely. Use it for an icebreaker, folks. That's free of charge. You're welcome. That's your gift because we've been absent for a while, and that's all because of these pesky technological issues, which we won't bore you with. However, we have made a lot of promises to cover some movies, and we're going to try to be that show that keeps all our promises. So we will get to them eventually, I assure you. We will.
Keyword being eventually.
Yes, exactly. We're going to grow this thing to reach more and more people because we're just a stubborn weed in the crack of cement. We're just going to keep growing whether you want us to or not.
One day we will reach the sun.
We're going to reach that sun, and we won't burn when we touch it. We'll just wrap around it and make it our own.
Yes.
Actually, I was thinking in a few weeks we might open up a Patreon to help fund this little endeavor because guess what? Bills suck, and I can't pay them. So...
movies ain't free, folks.
That's true. And I tell you what, I'm going to put some words in that Tom Coe's mouth right now, but if we reach like $500 in monthly donations, we'd probably do this at least 3 times a week, wouldn't we?
Oh, at least.
And if we reached $1,000 a month, you'd never get rid of us. We'd probably move in with you. So, you know, if you
don't take up a whole lot of space.
Yeah, if you want some roommates, just throw $1,000 a month
you got a spare
towards us.
walk-in closet. You'd hardly even notice us.
Yeah, exactly. Tom Coe won't leave any turds in the middle of your floor. He's housebroken.
No, I'll just maybe the deck.
Deck's a fine place to poo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got the breeze. You got sunshine.
Yeah.
It's God's country.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised the next time you see a company selling decks if the tagline is a fine place to poo.
Oh, could I be a mascot?
Absolutely. We'll put your Tom Coe face all over that.
Well, my straining Tom Coe face.
Oh, well, obviously.
Yes.
Today, we're covering a little-known treasure that's just started to be discovered over the last couple of years. It's a French film called 3615 Pere Noel. He said in the worst French accent possible. Also known as Dial Code Santa Claus or Deadly Games. We're going to tell you whether or not a much-beloved American classic by the name of Home Alone completely ripped it off.
I'm curious to see what you think, because I've got my opinion pretty firmly set.
Oh, you got your opinions, huh? Just thinking about it makes me want to put my hands on either side of my face and go, like a cute little Culkin. But first, before we get to that, this is a segment we call... What are you watching? What are you watching, Tom Coe?
Actually, right before we started recording, I finished up rewatching the entire run of Fargo, the FX series by Noah Hawley, who is also responsible for Legion. The 4th season's getting ready to come out in April, so I figured, you know what, while I'm waiting, why not get reacquainted with the flavor of the show? And I'm pleased to say that it definitely holds up for rewatch. Have you ever watched anything, any of the Fargo shows on FX, sir?
I actually have the first 2 seasons on DVD. I bought them cheaply around Christmas time because that's the best time to buy like seasons and of series and stuff. And I like my physical copies, but I haven't watched them yet. I haven't carved out any time. I mean to. I aim to. I'm going to, but just haven't found that time yet.
They are top notch. I mean, I don't know how to say it. It's definitely got that Coen Brothers quirky feel, and there are all kinds of Easter eggs to their movies if you look.
Are the Coen Brothers producers on it, or are they?
I think they might be producers in name only.
Sure, yeah.
But they aren't very involved other than giving their blessing to Noah Hawley to go ahead and use the name Fargo.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the only solid connection to their movies that there is, other than just like nods and winks.
Gotcha.
Definitely top-notch stuff. Check it out.
Anything else that you can think of offhand?
Yeah. Last weekend I rewatched Lonesome Dove for the first time in probably 15 years.
Oh, how was that for you?
Oh, I gotta say it's at least in my top 5 westerns, if not higher.
Nice. Are you a fan of westerns?
I am. Probably. I mean, not all westerns.
Sure.
I'm not a big fan of the wholesome fake westerns that were out in like the 50s and 60s.
The singing, dancing cowboys?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That just doesn't appeal to me. But you give me a good Clint Eastwood spaghetti western and a beer,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be a happy guy for the next 3 hours.
I'm not a big western fan, but there's a few that I really love. I love Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Mm-hmm.
Unforgiven. I love Pale Rider quite a bit.
Yeah.
I saw the original Magnificent Seven last year, and then I watched the remake with Chris Pratt and Denzel Washington. Oh,
And yeah, I just couldn't bring myself to it.
yeah, it wasn't.
I like both those actors a whole hell of a lot, but
Oh man, you realize how excellent the original actually was when you watch them back to back. Holy
bet.
cow!
And speaking of the Magnificent Seven, one of the movies that you and I have been talking, well, 2 of the movies that we've been talking about are made by Peckinpah, the guy that did the Magnificent Seven.
That's true. Yeah, in the future we're going to cover Straw Dogs and Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia.
One of the greatest titles for a movie ever.
Absolutely, I've definitely heard of it, but I've never seen it, so that'll be fun for me.
Word of warning, it's a weird movie.
Well, that's what we do best around these
That
parts.
is our specialty.
Yes.
What about yourself, sir? What have you been watching?
What have I been watching? Well, I've been watching on Hulu the show called High Fidelity, based on...
Really? That's another one that I was really hesitant to give a chance just because the movie is, I don't want to say perfect, but it's damn good.
The movie High Fidelity is one of my favorite movies of all time. I've seen it probably... Oh, man. There was a time I was watching it like every other week.
Mm-hmm. It's a great Gen X angsty movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in my mid-20s when I was feeling like a angsty son of a bitch, that's what I would put on. That and Swingers.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit excited, a little bit skeptical. You know, they flipped the gender, and Zoe Kravitz is the lead in this version. She is the child of Lisa Bonet and Lenny Kravitz. So the answer in the old Outkast song, "Hey Ya, what's cooler than being cool?" It's Zoe Kravitz, because those two people spawn a child. How can that child not be cool?
Exactly, and beautiful.
Oh my God, yes. I have such a crush on her, especially watching the show. And I watched her on do you watch that show on YouTube, the Hot Wings show?
Yeah.
She was on that, and she was like super cool on that. I'm like, wow, she's pretty much the perfect woman. Anyways, I'm 4 episodes in, and I am happy to report that the show is great. They actually
Really excellent.
Yeah, they actually lift lines and scenes straight from the movie,
Okay.
but somehow it works. Main difference so far that I see is John Cusack in High Fidelity is pretty much an unredeemable asshole, like the whole time. And somehow Zoe Kravitz doing the same lines is not an unredeemable asshole. Like her delivery and the way she plays it, it's completely different. It's interesting.
Well, I mean, that's one of the beauties of a television show where you don't have an hour and a half to tell your entire story and get to know all of your characters. You can take the time to let them get fleshed out over the course of a season.
Sure. And so the part in the movie that really makes John Cusack the worst is when he admits that he cheated on the woman that he's desperately in love with and wants back and can't believe she left. He drops the bombshell suddenly that, oh, I cheated on her. So that hasn't happened in the TV show yet, and I'm curious to see if it will happen, because that'll change things a bit for me, I guess. I don't know, but it's very excellent so far. I'm happy about it.
I might have to check it out, but still, there are so few things left in this world that I think are kind of worth holding on to your memory for, and High Fidelity is one of those.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. Like, if they did a Fight Club series with, like, Florence...
Anybody.
Yeah. Well, yeah, anybody. I would be like, oh, I don't know about that. Because that's probably my favorite movie ever.
That's up there.
Yeah. I have been plowing through movies lately. I think it's a movie geek thing, because I'm pretty sure there's no way normal people do this, but I actually keep a list of movies I see every year and, like, keep track. Do you do that?
No, I thought about it, but my OCD isn't quite to that level.
Oh, I've been doing it for years. I don't know what it really benefits me, but I do it, and I can't stop at this point. So last year, I only watched 65 movies the entire year. This year, I'm already up to 47.
Damn.
Yeah, I've been really plowing through shit lately. So I've been rewatching the Texas Chainsaw franchise, and in some cases, watching them for the first time.
Okay.
That's been an interesting journey.
The only one I haven't watched is Leatherface. I've seen the rest of them, some of them way more than I should have.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag, really.
Very. I mean,
the first one is just amazing to this day.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is fun in a campy way, as long as you go into it knowing it's a comedy. And then after that, it's a steep drop.
Yeah, the second one is fun. I haven't watched 3. I skipped over that to watch The Next Generation.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's one we have to talk about, because there's a lot going on in that.
So much. Yeah.
Yeah. Leatherface and drag, secret societies, a young Matthew McConaughey who actually drops an all right in the middle of being a terrifying psychopath, and a young Renee Zellweger. There's a lot going on.
Speaking of fucked up movies, I had a chance to watch The Lighthouse last weekend.
Oh, how'd you feel about that? Because people have been raving about that.
It's really good.
Okay.
I mean, it's probably one of the most bizarre movies I've seen in the last couple of years, but it's gotten me really excited about Robert Pattinson as Batman, and it's always good to see Willem Dafoe being able to turn in a great performance.
Yeah, that's one I'm meaning to check out, but I haven't yet. I'll get to it.
Definitely, it's worth watching. You know, it's one of those movies I think would actually be better with the lights out.
Okay, that makes sense. Lights out to watch The Lighthouse.
Yes.
Okay. One more thing, and then we'll move on. I watched Tammy and the T-Rex, the gore cut.
Oh, you got your Blu-ray. Did it live up to everything you expected it to?
Yeah, we covered this amazing gift to the universe in a previous episode. Check it out in our archives. It's episode 8, I think. However, the version we watched was pretty much the only available option at the time. It was a VHS rip, a very blurry VHS rip, posted to YouTube.
And I'm pretty sure all the YouTube copies have been stricken now, haven't they?
I wouldn't be surprised, actually. So the Blu-ray's here. It's a restored, perfectly clear version. And this movie's enjoying a renaissance right now. It's on Hulu. It's on Shudder. Like, wow.
Oh, it's on Hulu. I didn't know that.
It's on Hulu now. I just saw it today. I couldn't believe it.
Well, next time I want to get into an argument with my wife, I know what I'm going to flip on.
Yeah, that'll chase her away. You win. So I sat down with my gal and watched this movie because we really bonded at the beginning of our relationship over this movie. So now we watched the gore cut, all clear. You can actually see the actors' faces. It's amazing. This one, they added some curse words and some gore that was stripped from the theatrical version because I don't know what audience they were trying to reach, but they thought PG-13 would be better than R. However, I think the blood and guts adds an extra layer of ridiculousness to the whole thing. It just...
Which is what I'm sure they were going for. I mean, it had to be. I mean, everything in that movie was ridiculous intentionally, I think.
Yeah, it's super fun, and it's even more fun with the blood and guts. And there's actually one entire character who's added back to the movie in this version because he is literally in every gory part of the movie that they cut out. And he's Dr. Wackenstein, played by Terry Kaiser, his assistant. And he's probably by far the funniest character in the movie. He adds so much humor to it, and it's a shame that he was taken away from the original version, but I don't know, it's fun. Seek it out, people.
Now, which version is it on Hulu? Is it the theatrical or is it the unrated one?
I have no idea. I would hope it would be the unrated one, but I don't know. By the way, the Blu-ray does come with also the PG-13 version for whatever reason. For all you,
for the completists.
Yeah, all you Tammy and the T-Rex completists out there, you can have your cake and have a worse version of that cake too.
Boy, you're really selling this one, sir.
Yes, I am. I'm a salesman.
So what else is going on? Have you been keeping up with your red shoes homework?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Tommy. Ooh, Tom Coe.
Tommy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Tommy. It's time to titillate.
Wow.
I know. It's time to titillate that Tom Coe with a little segment I like to call now Randy Shoe Diaries. Because, my name kind of has a double meaning.
It starts with an R, and it's very alliterative.
Yeah, and if you look Randy up in the dictionary, it means like constantly aroused or something. So that's me, just...
No, not real quick. Not to completely derail this again, but...
Okay.
You remember Wizard Magazine?
Absolutely.
They had what at the time was a pretty enjoyable letter column.
Oh, yeah. It was oftentimes the best part of that.
Very often, yes. And one reader wrote in with the question whether or not the then current writer by the name of Randy Queen made English people laugh just by hearing his name. To which they got Warren Ellis, of all people. And for those of you who don't know who Warren Ellis is, he is a very well-respected but kind of trippy writer at times.
Yeah.
About as British as it can get. And they asked him about the name Randy Queen. And he's like, oh, yes, it's hilarious. And in fact, the only reason British people invented Americans was so we could laugh at you.
I mean...
Makes sense.
We're pretty humorous.
Yeah, we aren't in on the joke. They laugh at us, folks.
Remember Wizard Magazine? Because they would constantly highlight... So this is how gross the comic industry used to be in the 90s. Or I guess how gross the 90s used to be. Marvel used to put out swimsuit issues featuring their characters in skinny bikinis. So if you wanted to see She-Hulk wearing almost nothing, all you had to pay was $1.25, and there it was.
They knew their audience, sir.
What a weird thing. Who the hell was buying that?
Oh, somebody, because they had multiple volumes of it.
Yes, they did. It's the weirdest, grossest thing when you think about it. Like, that's a drawing. What do you even, like... the things we did before the internet, huh? For example...
I'm just thinking about the lingerie section in the Sears catalog now.
See? And then some of us, we watch scrambled porn on pay channels, and this is what we get. We get the Red Shoe Diaries.
It was a desperate time, and here comes a desperate product to fill the need.
Yes. So I'm on to season 1, episode 3. It's called You Have the Right to Remain Silent. And Tom Coe, this is the moment you've been waiting for.
This is the one. Yes.
This is the one where Tasha Yar from Star Trek The Next Generation gave the collective nerd consciousness a giant boner because she got naked.
I wish you could see the smile on my face right now, sir.
Oh, yeah. So Denise Crosby played Tasha Yar. Like, did she do this at the same time? She had to have been. Had to be pretty close. No?
Because I want to say it was like 3 or 4 years after she got shit canned off that show for posing in Playboy.
Oh, okay. Well, there it is. Is that why she got killed off?
That's what I heard. I could be completely wrong.
Oh, all right. Anyways, Denise Crosby, she's a woman that likes looking at men's bodies. So she goes to the gym, and of course the gym she goes to is full of all the men who are carved from marble, and all of them always walk around shirtless, of course. But despite all the heavily muscled gods all around her at all time, the man she's fascinated with most, his name's Nick. He's a racquetball player who wears a shirt, and by the way, never looked at her at all. And that's why she's fascinated. So she becomes obsessed. Like, okay, lady, how's your ego? So in order to meet him, she takes a fucking baseball bat and bashes out his taillight in the parking lot, and then follows him from the gym and pulls him over because she's a cop. That's not psychotic.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, that's a misconnection that she wasn't going to let go. Saw you wearing it.
I don't think it was a missed connection. I'm pretty sure the bat firmly connected to the taillight.
That's true. So she makes him get out of the car, makes him take a sobriety test, then frisks him and handcuffs him, throws him in the back of her car, and tells him he has the right to remain silent. And there we have the title of the show. She takes him to an abandoned apartment that was just raided as a drug house, puts him in a cage that for some reason was in this drug house, blindfolds him, and then interrogates him. I mean, if this was me in this situation, I'd be pretty sure I was going to die at this point.
Yeah, that does sound like you would be a missing person. Yeah.
Yeah. But this lucky bastard, he just has all the sex. They have all the sex, and he says all her dreams and aspirations belong to him now because he's a creep, apparently. I mean, they're made for each other. They're both creeps. They have more sex, and like it's really weird. And as soon as they stopped having sex, they started over and over again. So I guess they're just a perpetual mix of writhing sex bodies for all time. I mean, she literally said once they stopped, they started again. So,
man, you figured you'd chafe after a while.
Man, so much redness.
Ugh.
They're both going to be sore in the morning. Like, oh, God, that was a bad idea. But then, you know, the next day they decide to hang out and they start playing racquetball together at the gym because that's his favorite thing, apparently.
It was the 90s, makes sense.
And finally he caves in, and I guess he really liked having all the sex for all time because he says that they're going to have a really real relationship, but only if she beats him in a game of racquetball. You know, because that's how you start a relationship.
And actually, how you start a relationship shouldn't be, you know, interrogated in a crack house cage.
Probably not off to a good start.
No.
I mean, if you're taking him home to meet the parents and they ask, how do you meet? How did you guys meet? It's probably not a story you want to tell.
That's the weirdest meet cute story ever.
Probably. So, Denise Crosby beats him in a game of racquetball, and he gets really pissed off, and she slams him into the wall and tells him basically to shut up, and that he is hers now, and he becomes a meek little puppy. And the moral of the story, according to David Duchovny, who's the narrator of this thing, the harder you play the game, the harder you fall.
Oh,
you know?
Words of wisdom from Red Shoe Diaries.
Very sensuous, possibly sumptuous, could be scrumptious. The Red Shoe Diaries.
Felonious.
Excuse me?
Definitely felonious. There's definitely a lot of crimes being committed there.
Is that how you say it? Or felonious?
Felonious.
Thelonious Monk. It's definitely Thelonious Monk. I do this on the Miserable Retail Slave show. It's a segment where I ask the best possible questions that are both thought-provoking and mind-bending. I'm bringing that same thunder here right now, Tom Coe. I hope you're ready. Quality question.
You're catching me off guard on this one.
Yeah, that's right. Quality question, Tom Coe. I thought of this question because recently in my watching binge, I watched the movie Drop Dead Fred for the first time because it was a hole in my cinematic knowledge and I had to watch it.
Okay. I've seen it maybe about 20 years ago.
Okay. I mean, this isn't the quality question, but I do wonder why no one makes movies like this anymore. It's so rare. Like, if I ran a streaming service like Netflix, I'd be throwing money at folks that came to me with their weird, original, quirky ideas. If you don't know, Drop Dead Fred's about an adult whose imaginary childhood friend comes back to her in her time of need. Very weird idea. They don't make them like that anymore.
I could see something like Shout Factory. They have a streaming service that is on, at least I have it through my Roku.
Mm-hmm.
I could see something like Shout Factory doing something like that. If they wanted to have just weird, bizarre, original content, I could definitely see them making a mark with it.
Yeah. By the way, folks, if you have a Roku, go ahead, download that. Download Tubi and Crackle. Like, they're all free, and they have a shitload of weird and fun movies, and surprisingly, name recognition movies. I don't know what that means. What a weird thing to say. Like, movies you would hear of are on there as well, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, a lot of cult classics, a lot of hidden gems, as well as a lot of mainstream success movies.
Yeah, you said that a lot better than I did. God damn it. But yeah, and it's free. You just have to watch a couple 30-second ads here and there. It's not a big thing. So, anyway.
It's actually kind of, I realized that I kind of missed commercials just because it gives you a chance to get up, take a pee, get a pop, sit back down, and continue the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Phoebe Cates is in this movie, and she is so watchable. This Phoebe Cates.
Yes, she is.
I mean, besides a certain bikini scene in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, she's probably best known for doing the Gremlins movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's how this quality question popped in my head.
Okay.
First, we must review the rules of the Gremlins for the people that may not know. If you spill water on a mogwai,
you have multiple mogwai.
That's how they spawn. They look like Furbies. If you don't know what that is, they look like cute little fuzzy teddy bear thingies.
Imagine Baby Yoda with fur.
Oh, that's perfect. Good job. God, you're killing it tonight. Why do I feel like a knucklehead and you're just Einstein there? Damn it. That's why I keep you around.
I'm a professional podcaster, sir.
Hell yeah, you are. Also, if you feed one after midnight, they make cocoons and emerge from those as nasty lizard-like gremlin things.
Yes, you don't want to give them any leftover chicken. But how does that? I've always wondered. I know I'm not the only one who's thought about this. How does that work with time zones? Or daylight savings time? I
think the main thing is he's breaking all the rules, so he becomes a little devil.
Yeah.
I think that's the long and short of it. I think that's all you have to know. He was told not to. He ate after midnight. Yep. So he becomes a little devil, and that's what you have to deal with. So, quality question. If you dropped a mogwai in the sea, would it multiply perpetually until you had an ocean of gizmo? Just never-ending multiplication filling all the oceans.
Well, isn't that kind of what they implied at the... And God, it's been a long time since I've seen this, but when the main gremlin, Stripe, jumped into the pool, he was multiplying over and over again, I thought.
This is true. Could we have an entire landform of mogwais?
Oh, man.
If one
just imagine the real estate prices on Mogwai Island.
Right? I mean, that's a good way to end like the food crisis, too. We can start hunting those little fuzzy bitches.
Hey, if they're eating iguanas in Florida, why can't we eat mogwai off the coast of California?
I know. Like, so, yeah, you put one in the ocean and then it would multiply, and it multiplies 8.
Food source.
Yeah, it multiplies 8, and those 8 would multiply. Oh my gosh, this would be the end of the world as we knew it.
But would it give birth to something better, though? I mean, just imagine what Wolfgang Puck could do with fresh mogwai.
Oh, put a little garlic and butter on that.
You know, I bet you it would be really good over like a charcoal grill.
Oh yeah, get those nice charcoal marks in
flavor to it.
Yeah. So I guess the answer to the question is eat Gizmo. Got it.
Yeah.
All right, let's stop fucking around. Let's get to the movie.
Yes, let's give people what they came here for.
This is why they gave us their precious download.
Yes.
It's Dial Code Santa Claus.
How did you come across this movie?
How did I? God damn it! I don't even know. I don't know.
I'd never even heard about this before you said, "Hey, this is what we're watching."
I think it was around the time that I was looking at. Okay, yeah. So a few episodes ago, we did a movie called 12:01 p.m., which the producers of sued the producers of Groundhog Day because of the similarities there. And I believe that's how I came across this.
Okay.
Because the director of this movie tried unsuccessfully to sue Fox and John Hughes for making Home Alone because of similarities that he saw, which we'll get to.
Yes.
I think that's how I came across it. I'm not sure, though. Or, no, maybe I was looking... So we did an entire episode on Silent Night, Deadly Night, the franchise. This is how I came across it. And I was looking... I just Googled, like, Killer Santa movies, and I think this popped up. That's how I found it.
Which, oddly enough, there are multiple Killer Santa movies.
I keep finding more and more, and I can't believe it. Like, there's been quite a few that came out in the last decade or so.
Yeah. The one that I'm morbidly curious about is Santa's Sleigh.
Oh,
with Bill Goldberg, and all I know is it takes place in Hell, Michigan.
Does it really?
Yes, it does.
Oh, that's fun. I've heard some good things about that.
I have too, yeah.
Yeah, I should watch that. Starring current WWE champion Bill Goldberg. Tom Coe's an AEW kid. Don't mind him.
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Anyways, but Neil digress, Tyson. Dial Code Santa Claus. This movie is about the main character is Thomas, who's a rich kid. He's got a big imagination, a bigger house. He lives there.
An even bigger budget from the looks of it.
Yeah, right. He lives there with his deaf but doting grandfather and his hard-working, career-driven mother, who owns multiple stores, apparently. He also has the most impressive mullet that any 9-year-old is legally allowed to have. He's got
that kid's gonna have neck problems from the weight of that hair.
He's got an unwavering belief in Santa Claus, and he seems to be a genius when it comes to technology. For example,
he seems to be a genius when it comes to everything.
Yeah. And I'm glad they established that right off the bat instead of just like, by the way, as a convenient plot device. They established that he's a smart boy. Like the opening scenes show him he's built a trap door in the middle of his big hallway, and he's installed cameras all throughout the house and programmed them with his computer to be controlled by this little device on his arm, so that he can successfully record video evidence of the existence of Santa Claus.
Now, that right there was one of my first problems with this movie. This kid is too perfect. He is too smart. He's too good at everything. And it seems like whenever the situation throws an obstacle in his way, well, of course he's an expert at whatever it needs to, whatever he needs to do in order to overcome that. No problem.
Oh, you had issues with this movie.
I did.
Oh, boy. I quite enjoyed this movie, actually. But Thomas's dad is dead. His mom works constantly. He's dating some doofus that he doesn't necessarily approve of. His grandpa, his dog, and a boy named Pilu are his only friends. One day, Thomas decides to use a Minitel to reach out to Santa Claus to prove to his disbelieving friend, Pilu, that Santa doesn't indeed exist. Now, I had no idea what a Minitel was. I thought it was something that was just made up for this movie, so I had to Google it. Did you know what this was?
No.
Yes.
It looked like what? Some kind of like cross between like a payphone and an instant messenger?
Yeah. In movies in the 80s, anytime anybody used a computer, it was like some magical genie or something that could do anything. Like, I need $1 million. Well, let me just get on this computer and hack into the blah, 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 and you got $1 million. You know?
Well, I mean, speaking of Matthew Broderick, look at Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
He, erases all of his absences right in front of Principal Rooney.
Yeah.
And he can just do it by the magic of computers.
Yeah. You couldn't do that in 1988. You can barely do it now.
Exactly.
Ugh.
But we didn't question it back then because what the fuck did we know about computers?
Yeah. But Minitels were a real thing. The Minitel network was huge in France during the 80s. And basically, it was a predecessor of the internet. It gave users a phone directory, addresses, message boards, even online shopping. Like,
really?
Yes, this was a real thing. Users dialed codes in to access a server, then dialed a word or a code for what they wanted to look for. So, flowers, for example, would be one thing, or Santa Claus. That's where the title comes from, Dial Code Santa Claus.
Okay.
It was a real freaking thing. So when Thomas reaches out to Santa Claus, he actually hits a random street bum on the other end, who you see in the opening scenes of the movie trying to join a neighborhood snowball fight with some kids, and they're having none of it. They run away. And the creep factor is very, very high at this point.
Now, I have to admit, walking into this movie, I was expecting a striking similarity to Home Alone.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first saw the homeless man, I thought he was going to be like the creepy neighbor in Home Alone.
Yes.
Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, because he ends up being a bad, bad man.
Yeah.
In an interview with the website Polygon a few years ago, director Rene Manzour said he got the original idea of the film while using Minitel to buy flowers for his mother, but when he accessed the directory, he accidentally connected to a sex chat room.
Hot.
So hot.
Big finger quotes here, accidentally.
Yeah. He says, so I started to imagine this bad connection happening to a kid. What if a kid tries to connect to something innocent like a Santa Claus messenger service, but is instead transferred to a live chat room with a dangerous individual?
Oh, it probably happens every day now.
Yeah, exactly. He still believes he's talking to the real Santa Claus while he's chatting with a crazy killer. So it's internet panic before the internet actually existed. That's amazing.
Yeah, I got to give him credit for that. That was very spot on.
Yeah. So
now again, what year did this movie come out?
1989.
I had no idea that stuff like that happened back then. It was a magical time that I was completely unaware of.
Yeah, me too.
Huh.
Those French were living it up, shopping online right before the rest of the world, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, hardworking mom plans a Santa Claus initiative for Christmas Eve, and she wants her store flooded with fat old men, so it looks like Santa himself shops there. So, she holds a open casting call for Santa Clauses for her store, and the bum from earlier that was talking to Thomas, he finds out that Thomas's mom is the manager of the big department store and applies for a job. And he gets fired promptly because one of the little girls that's sitting on his lap says, I don't like your face. And he slaps her.
Which, let's face it, I'm willing to bet. I know that they're supposed to say that they're jolly and merry. I can guarantee you there's at least one child that every store Santa wishes they could do that to.
Yeah, pretty much.
But you can't.
Yeah. Rules. For the dog.
Cameras.
Yeah. What does society come to when you can't slap a 2-year-old? So he gets fired. He walks into a personnel office to get his pay or whatever, and overhears talk about a delivery being taken to Thomas's house. So Santa Bum hitches a ride there in the back of the delivery truck, kills the driver. He didn't see the Wet Bandits doing that.
Yeah, this movie escalated at an alarming rate.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, I'm expecting like a proto Home Alone children's movie.
Yes. Yeah. So, he kills the driver and then the house caretakers. And meanwhile, Thomas is in the house and navigating through secret passages in the house to get to the perfect spot to see Santa drop down the chimney. At this point, Mom calls home. Thomas answers, and she tells him not to try to see Santa because if he does, Santa will turn into an ogre. Of course, Thomas doesn't listen. Santa comes down the chimney, and this scene was amazing to me, the way they filmed it, because there's a look of pure joy on the boy's face, who, by the way, was the director's son.
Okay, I can believe that.
Yeah. They have a white glow of happiness around them because Santa's there. And it's quickly dulled when JR, Thomas's dog, attacks the bum, and Santa fucking kills it with a dinner fork to the neck.
That's when damn. Again, I was expecting a family-friendly kids movie, and it all of a sudden turns into the opening act of John Wick.
Yeah, all of a sudden, shit got real, and it becomes a slasher movie as this weird, demented Santa starts giggling and chasing the boy through the house. And you're like, holy fuck.
What the fuck am I watching here, Andy?
Yeah. So, I mean, it gets really, really tense. And along the way...
Did it get tense, though? I didn't have any sense at all that the kid was going to be in genuine danger because, again, he's too perfect. He knows everything.
Well, I guess I'm just a naive snowflake because I thought it was tense, Tom Coe.
I don't know. To me, they took away a lot of the any kind of sense of dread. You know, I wasn't on pins and needles hoping that Tommy was going to get out alive because, of course, he was.
Yeah. His name's Tom. Tom's always win.
Exactly. One way or the other.
One way or the other. So they play a cat and mouse game, and along the way, Thomas swears that he'll make the Santa pay for his dog's death. He says, even though you're Santa Claus, I swear you're going to be scared. In order to do this, Thomas creates elaborate booby traps in the house in order to take out the intruder. Does this sound familiar to you?
Vaguely.
Yeah. So you're saying you didn't like this movie?
I did not like this movie, no.
Oh my God, I can't believe it.
To me, again, the character was just too perfect. He could do anything that the writers threw at him. This is, again, one of those movies where I don't know who the hell they were making it for because it's too family friendly to be a horror movie and it's too horrific to be a family movie. And I just couldn't get into it.
Oh, man. I'm very disappointed in that. You have a movie where a small boy is asked to purge his faith in Santa Claus by killing Santa Claus. That doesn't strike you at all?
Nah.
Like the killer starts the movie as a playful child trying to join in a snowball fight, and he ends up dressed as an old man at the end of the movie, a mythic figure of childhood wonder trying to kill youth. And Thomas is the same. Thomas is the same way. He's wide-eyed and full of belief, full of play and whimsy, and at the end he's wide-eyed and shell-shocked because he killed the very thing that he believes strongly in. Oh yes, by the way, Thomas fucking shot Santa Claus. Can you imagine Kevin McAllister pulling a shotgun out on Harry?
Well, when he set one of them on fire, crushed another one's head with a swinging paint bucket.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Kevin McAllister was hardcore.
But do you think, Tom Coe?
Yes.
Because I did rewatch Home Alone after watching this, just to really get my
kind of, prep yourself, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that Home Alone was inspired by this movie?
No.
Ooh, Tom Coe says no.
And it's because they're both ripoffs of Die Hard.
Is it because Thomas is barefoot throughout the entire movie?
Yes. And he's trapped in one building. It's Die Hard.
Wow, Home Alone is Die Hard. You heard it here first, folks. Home Alone is Die Hard. That's a great take.
What about you? What's your opinion? Did Home Alone rip this movie off?
If you're going to rip off a movie, it might as well be Die Hard, right? Because everybody says that's the best screenplay ever written. Simply because everything that's in the screenplay, there's no fat on it. Everything that's introduced comes back around.
It does, yeah.
And that's why it's so great. Do I think? I think possibly. So I did some investigation here because that's how I roll. So in case you don't know, Home Alone was written by John Hughes.
Yes.
Chances are you know and love a John Hughes movie if you're of a certain age. He wrote 16 Candles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Breakfast Club, Home Alone.
Some of the greatest movies of a generation.
Dutch.
I don't think
Curly
that's hyperbole.
Sue.
Yeah. Some of the greatest generation. Some of the greatest movies of a generation.
National Lampoon's The Vacation movies.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie was directed by Christopher Columbus, who sailed the ocean blue in 1492. So this movie only played in theaters for a week in France.
Really?
Because
I don't know why, but I did no research on this at all.
Okay.
I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I thought that this would have been like a massive French hit.
Well, it kind of was. It only played in theaters for a week because the distributor only wanted to technically release it as a movie so they could sell it to TV stations at a higher rate.
Okay.
So it was technically only in theaters for a week. However, it did well on video and was at the top of sales and rentals for 6 months in France.
Wow.
So
good for them.
Yeah. And while the normal movie-going public in America might not even realize this existed, people in the industry definitely did. Because the reason René Manzour, the director of Dial Code Santa Claus, was hired by one George Lucas and one Steven Spielberg, you may have heard of them, to direct episodes of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, was because they saw this movie.
Interesting.
The film was also shown at a little thing called the Cannes Film Festival in May 1989 in order to find potential distribution companies interested in buying the film. An American producer even approached Manzour to make a remake of it.
Okay.
Dial Code Santa Claus also opened the I don't know how you say that word, Fantastic Film Festival in 1990, and apparently received a standing ovation from an audience that included Roman Polanski, Wes Craven, and Ray Bradbury.
Oh, come on.
The film also won Best Director and Best Film at the 1990 Fanta Festival in Italy.
No, come on. There had to have been other movies that came out that year.
People like this movie. I like this movie. You don't. I'm just saying.
Well, fine. I guess I'm the wrong one.
You said it, not me. I'm just saying facts. I can't help that you're guilted into realizing how wrong you are. It's not my fault your opinions are stupid. Oh, did I say that out loud?
I
Damn
think
it.
you did.
Edit.
Well, at least I don't have something in common with Roman Polanski.
That's why I like you, sir. According to James Hughes, the son of the beloved screenwriter, John Hughes, his father wrote the script for Home Alone in less than 10 days.
It shows.
Yeah, especially now when I rewatch the movie, I'm like, ooh, this wasn't as awesome as I remember it.
Not at all. No.
I mean, in 1990 when it came out, it was legendary because here's this kid showing him who's boss, you know?
Mm.
I was in 4th grade, and trust me, those traps inspired me. So I should not admit this, but I think I have on Miserable Retail Slave before. Inspired by this movie in 4th grade, I started writing and drawing my own teacher torture machines.
Oh, wow.
In which I would draw representations of my teacher getting blown up and flamethrowered, and all on a conveyor belt. Ran into cactuses, cacti, paint cans, all of it. These days, I would be arrested and taken to a psychiatric hospital for such a thing. But I guess they're right. Media does cause violence.
I guess so.
But anyways, John Hughes apparently wrote this in less than 10 days after travelers' anxiety sparked the idea for the movie ahead of the family's first trip to Europe in 1989. This movie came out in 1989. 2 weeks later, after returning home, he revisited the premise. What if one of the kids had been accidentally left behind and was home alone? Over the next 9 days, he completed the first draft and knocked out the final 44 pages of the screenplay in just 8 hours.
Yeah, I can believe that.
I can believe that too. I also found another article that got really sassy about John Hughes in his later career. And I can't remember where this came from, but I'm going to read it verbatim. There's ample reason to wonder how Hughes and his work would be viewed if he'd gone down a different path and not simply chased the broad box office appeal. The formula he came up with for Home Alone, the one he found the most success with, was structurally sound and easy to replicate, but ultimately empty. It's Frank Whaley and Jennifer Connelly in career opportunities forced to defend a Target store against...
You know what? Yes, I saw that in the theater.
You saw Career Opportunities in the theater?
I did.
Oh my God, I love that movie. But,
yeah?
But they have to defend a Target store against 2 dim-witted robbers.
Yeah, I mean, it essentially is the same movie, only with Jennifer Connelly in a great tank top.
She was my first movie crush ever.
And it's a good one to have.
It wasn't in this movie, though. It was from The Rocketeer, but same era.
Yeah.
Dennis the Menace, which he wrote, doing battle with a burglar named Switchblade Sam. And The Baby and Baby's Day Out, outsmarting 3 kidnappers. He just...
Yeah, I mean... I think it's fair to say that John Hughes he fell into the trap that a lot of creative people kind of find themselves in, where they have a runaway success and they get pressured from both the bosses at the studio and from themselves to do it again and again and again. But in John Hughes' credit, every once in a while he would do a movie like Only the Lonely. Phenomenal movie, but you never hear about that movie anymore.
I used to think John Hughes was like an untouchable, like God. Like, no. I don't know. I thought he was like the best man or something. Like, but when I did the research for this, I realized what a turd he was.
Really?
Yeah, he seemed to be one of those moody creative types, which I never would have gotten at all, ever. But he was, apparently. One article quoted Molly Ringwald saying... He was so easily slighted and hurt. He would always go to a place that somebody didn't care about him. She said she recalled a mortifying episode in which she extended a trip home to L.A. by one day to visit her gynecologist. At her age, she was too embarrassed to tell Hughes the reason for her extra day out west. In quote, John was sure that I was meeting with someone for another movie. He flipped out. He thought that I was not committed to him. And this was somebody who adored me. It was really terrifying. I read another article called Big Baby from Spy Magazine, and it's a profile on John Hughes. And it pretty much portrays him as like this creative, almost like kingpin with all these little low-life employees scurrying around in constant fear that he might yell at them throw things at him. Like, that's not the guy I had in mind.
Well, sounds like a typical giant with feet of clay, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
It is a bummer.
Because, again, I still stand by it. He did some of the greatest movies of, early to mid-90s. I'm sorry, early 80s to mid-90s. Yeah, he laid a shitload of turds along the way, but the ones that stand out, I think, are going to be remembered forever.
I think so, too. I mean, you can't take that away. He did write a lot of good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The final thing I'm going to cite in the New York is from the New York Times in 1992. It talks about Hollywood idea theft, and it brings up Dial Code Santa Claus and Home Alone, and it talks about how Manzur was going to sue Fox and whatever. And the article specifically said, Mr. Hughes said that he came up with the idea for Home Alone in August 1989 when en route to Paris for a family vacation and denied ever seeing the film.
I think a case could be made either way, but I don't know. Once you get past the surface level, it's not a very similar movie.
I don't think it is. The only similarity there really is there's a kid that's home alone and he makes traps.
Yeah.
That's about it. Otherwise, thematically, tonally, they're completely different.
Yeah.
Like, you'd never want to show your 8-year-old Dial Code Santa Claus. They would.
No, God, no.
Especially at the end. Santa Claus is in some rough shape.
Yeah, there was a lot more blood in this movie than I anticipated. I expected, Home Alone with different accents.
I mean, maybe that's
not what I got.
Maybe that's why you don't like it. I offended your wholesome sensibilities. I'm sorry for offending you.
I am nothing if not wholesome.
That's what you are. That's your middle name, Tom Wholesome Coe.
Yes. That's what my driver's license says, and it always gets a weird look when I get pulled over and have to hand it to the cop.
Yeah. And you're like, well, what can you say? My parents were hippies. My mom used to call me Whole as a kid. What do you want from me?
So final verdict. You love this movie, huh?
Yeah. Meanwhile, Whole Co over there hated it. God. Yeah, I did. I liked it a lot.
Well, for that, I'm happy. Anytime somebody gets enjoyment out of a movie, it can't be that bad, And
I guess I'll have to say to our dear listeners, maybe you should watch the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it out.
It's currently streaming on Shudder, which you can get a free trial for 7 days or pay $4 a month or something. It's got a lot of horror movies on it. And check it out. And then watch Home Alone and decide for yourself, damn it.
I would be curious. If we could put this up to a vote somehow, I'd be curious to see what the listening public thinks.
I mean, I could put a poll on Twitter for all it'll do, but I don't think anyone will participate, damn it. So we do need more listeners, so if you have a friend that loves movies, hey, put a little bug in their ear. Be like, hey.
Tell them about everybody loves movies. Why don't you love listening to us talk about them?
Yeah. It's a great podcast for free. Keep the change, you filthy animals,
Now, where else can people hear you? I think you mentioned the other show a couple times, didn't you?
Miserable Retail Slave is a Big Dumb Comedy show. We are going to celebrate our 8-year anniversary very shortly. We're also going to be on live stream for The Cure 4 coming up soon. It's a live streaming event on the internet, May 28th, 7 p.m. Miserable Retail Slave will be there. It's going to be streaming on Twitch. It's an event to raise money for cancer research. This is the 3rd year we've been involved. It's been great. I'm going to play a promo for it after we wrap things up. So stay tuned to that. Listen, write down all the vital info because you'll want to tune in. It's going to be fun, and it's a great cause. A lot of indie podcasts banding together for a great cause. Every year we smash expectations. I think the goal this year is to raise $10,000, and they also have the Epic Film guys put this on. They find a company to match the donations, so it would be $20,000 overall if we can reach that. And I think we can. Last year it was close to 17,000. We could do 20, right?
We can only do it if we dream it. Or something like that. I don't know. I'm tired.
Wow. Where can people find you, Tom Coe?
Usually, well, you know what? I'd say every Sunday. Normally, I would say normally Sunday, but this weekend I think we may be a little bit late. We had some technical difficulties of our own, but you can find me on a little show called Jake and Tom Conquer the World. It's been described as the conversations you overhear from a couple dorks drinking on the other side of the bar. Beyond that, you can find me on Twitter at The Drunken Dork, and you can find me on Facebook at Jake and Tom Conquer the Group.
Perfect. Next time we're going to be covering for St. Paddy's Day, because we promised, the Leprechaun franchise in its entirety. All 8 of those sons of bitches.
Oh.
Yes, that's an appropriate response.
This is not a podcast for the weak of heart.
No, the week after that, breaking news, Tom Coe, we're covering a movie called Stunt Rock.
Stunt Rock?
Oh, yes. I stumbled across this, and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. And it took me a while to find it, but I found it, goddammit.
My mind is reeling as to what the hell this is. Is this like a stunt man, except it's a rock? Or is this like stunt rock, like hair metal?
It's like a stunt man plus a rock and roll band.
Oh my God, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, well, it's along the lines of Roar in that you can't believe it exists, but we'll see if it's ridiculous stunts and ridiculous rock and roll. It's stunt rock.
Please tell me David Lee Roth has a role in it.
He does not. Although Foreigner was in talks to do it, but they didn't. They bowed out, and I think that was probably a wise choice. It would have been a very different morning. Yeah, I think so. Would have been a very different movie with Foreigner involved. And then the week after that, because we're whores for the holidays, we're going to do April Fool's Day, the horror movie.
Looking forward to that one. That's a good one.
Okay, and then after that, we're doing Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. I think we'll double up that episode and do Straw Dogs as well. Might as well, huh?
Speaking of which, I was wrong. The Magnificent Seven did not have anything at all to do with Peckinpah. It was directed by John Sturges. So I'm sure that I got yelled at by listeners.
Oh, man.
So I was wrong, listeners.
You just got us canceled from all the film geeks.
I think we did.
Damn it. So, until next time.
See you then, guys.
We'll see you. Bye.
Can you imagine a world immune to all forms of cancer?
Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for our 4th annual live stream for the cure.
And this year, we need your help more than ever.
Please join us May 27th through May 31st for 48 hours of live content from guests and podcasts around the world.
We'll be aiming for our most ambitious goal to date as we try to raise $10,000 for the Cancer Research Institute.
Please visit www.livestreamforthecure.com for more information on this year's event and how you can be a part of it. Together, we can make a difference.